Good evening, everyone. It's absolutely wonderful to be with you tonight as we celebrate the legacy of Julian Bond. As many have experienced, working with Julian was a highlight of their life. In 2002, he joined with Wade Henderson and others in the founding of the Center for Responsible Lending to improve economic justice in America. As noted in the video and by others tonight, he was one of the first civil rights leaders to raise the importance of economic advancement as a twin pillar of civil rights to achieve real justice for families. He advocated that you could not benefit fully from those laws unless you had those economic means. But he further focused on the key role of fair financial services in supporting or impeding economic advancement. He famously said, "We must place interest in principle above interest on principle." This led to his joining the founding CRL board of directors. And at that time, there were huge changes occurring in the financial world, with automation, new products, services being rolled out. Communities of color, long shunned by lenders, were now targeted for new products, marketed as inclusive credit. Those included subprime mortgages and payday loans, as we heard about tonight. And as we know, these subprime mortgages had a dominant and devastating impact ultimately on the whole economy, but particularly on families and communities of color. CRL focused much of its early work on subprime mortgages, and this grew out of its experience of its parent organization, Self-Help. Self-Help is a community development financial institution started in North Carolina in the early 1980s, primarily serving lower-income families of color with bank accounts, home loans, small business loans, full range of banking services. Its members were among those targeted by these products, and it saw the impact that it had. Borrowers at Self-Help had put into safe, affordable loans, home loans, were refinanced by subprime lenders into new mortgages that looked appealing, but had hidden fees that were as high as a fourth of the total mortgage amount, and payments that started low and then jumped up unaffordably 2 years later. These predatory lenders even targeted borrowers who had low or 0% interest home loans from affordable housing programs, putting these families into high-cost, exploding loans with double-digit interest rates. And these loans were funded by Wall Street and became a large part of home lending. Seeing the deep harm of this lending, Self-Help worked in North Carolina in the late 1990s to pass the first state law that stopped abusive subprime lending. Soon, other states requested Self-Help's assistance in passing similar laws. Then national foundations asked Self-Help to set up a separate organization to work on financial issues, including subprime mortgages, across the country in state and federal forums. And in 2002, this became CRL. Julian's work and his incredibly powerful voice in these campaigns delivered profound impact. On subprime mortgages, he dispelled the claim that lenders made that these were helpful assistance for underserved families, and this took away the primary cover for these destructive products. This led to the passage of more than 20 state laws addressing subprime lending. However, industry and regulators fought for years to repeal these laws and to have them preempted at the federal level. Ultimately, though, through the work of a broad coalition of groups, many here tonight, these provisions were enacted into the federal Dodd-Frank Act. That prohibited these abusive practices and drove these subprime mortgages out of the market. This is the most important federal homeowner protection that has been enacted. As we know, historic and continuing discrimination, though, still drive a deep economic divide in America. The racial homeownership gap today is greater than it was in 1968 when the Fair Housing Act was passed. Black households headed by college graduates have lower homeownership rates and less wealth than white households headed by those who did not complete high school. For mutual funds and stocks, the average disparity is similar. And when you look at it in total, nearly 90% of all of these stocks and mutual funds are owned by white households. Black and Latino households each hold less than 1%, 1% of the total. For those with this wealth, it begets more wealth, but it also increases and perpetuates the disparities caused by discrimination. Too often, financial practices have compounded these disparities rather than provide products that enhance economic opportunity. So we must make financial services more inclusive. Products and programs were often built for those who already had wealth and financial security, and some are outright predatory lending still. There have been areas of reform. Home loans have become more adapted to today's new households that have less family wealth and who have jobs in a more new volatile economy. The last administration made student loan reform a priority, delivering major relief to over 5 million borrowers. And many banks are providing first-time homebuyer assistance programs, fair consumer products, and assistance to CDFIs. New approaches, though, are required. They're needed to build and support more small businesses, provide fair financing for consumer essential needs, create wealth-building investments, and make artificial intelligence a force of opportunity rather than discrimination. This will be the work of the Julian Bond Institute for Financial Equity Research. You will hear tonight from other speakers about how it will perform this essential endeavor. The Institute will be a continuing program honoring the legacy of Julian Bond and his life's work towards economic justice. Thank you.